let's hope today you guys can hear me well. I'm actually recording this video during the day, and I live in a very busy area here with freeways and like constant traffic, so I can hear a lot of noises already. So if you hear too much buzz around the background, my apologies for that, but I just want to try out because that's a good time for me to record today. But I would like to do two things today. Before I start a more deeper conversation, I wanted to share with you guys a couple cool quotes from the past. I just want to explain what I'm doing in this drawing. So I was a little out of inspiration, and when that happens, I usually like to draw a observation drawing, but not a classic, what is considered classic observation drawing. Like if you go to an art school, or if you ever heard about observation drawing, usually it's about, like when people draw objects and plants and fruits, or even like a model, a life model. They try to get the gesture and the fluidity of the image, and shadows, highlights, and likeness sometimes. And that's usually like a pencil work. It's not a rule, but usually artists do observation drawings with pencils. But I decide to do something more simple. I like to challenge myself to think about drawing in a more simple way, because sometimes I overthink and I try to do everything too nice and too perfect and add too much realism to it, and worry too much about looking nice. And it feels very liberating when you can just draw something almost like a kid, right? I always admire artists that draw with children's books, because sometimes they have very, very simple lines, but it's just so beautiful and so simple to look at, very interesting to look at. There's a lot of personality. And that's what I strive for sometimes, to help my art, to create personality to my art. I like to do challenges like this. What I'm doing is pretty much drawing my desk here, the laptop, which I usually get reference, or I'm recording the videos, and drawing my sketchbook and random objects around my table. And I'm not worrying about making them look nice or making them look perfect or even proportional. Another advantage of doing drawings like this is that I can work much faster, because I am a very slower worker. I'm a very slow artist. So most of my pieces, it takes me like days, sometimes weeks or months to finish. And with something like this, I can draw in 1 hour, do a quick video, and just share some ideas with you guys. And it's actually interesting because sometimes I do pieces like this and I'll share in my social media, and they get more interaction or more likes than a piece that it took me like weeks to make, and that I put so much more work. And I think the reason of that is because maybe, like I mentioned, they're just more interesting to look at. Because sometimes people, they don't really want to look for a realistic drawing or something that looks like a picture, right? We already have the reality for that. Sometimes the beauty of art is just the simplicity and the personality and the messy lines. So that's what I try to practice when I do this kind of drawing. And it's very fun. It's very fun. If you are an artist, I definitely recommend you to try to do something like this. Just get an object. I like to draw sometimes like vintage things, like a vintage phone or a typewriter or a radio, and just try to draw the little buttons and all the details, but in your own way. Don't worry about them having like a perspective and looking perfect. And you're gonna see that sometimes you come up with something really cute or really different that have a lot of personality. Anyways, let's talk a little deeper now. Let me share with you guys an idea here, and that's the idea of the flow of life, right? Life, it's in a constantly movement. And there's a lot of like philosophers in the past and wise men that actually talk about that, and even have some quotes. For example, one of the most famous quotes about that will be Albert Einstein's quote that says that life, it's like riding a bicycle. You have to be constantly moving so you don't fall, so you keep your balance. And my interpretation of this quote is that, we have to keep moving in life in order to keep evolving, in order to not hurt ourselves or become sick. There is actually another philosopher, author, I forgot who, that wrote something like, standing water, it creates poison and pestilence, which is pretty much the same principle. If there's no flow, it becomes like a poison. And I think we can relate that not just to our physical bodies, right? If you're not moving, we're gonna get overweight, and we're gonna have with some health problems if you're not doing exercise and if you're just sitting the whole day. But it's not necessarily physically that I mean, it's also like mentally, and also like in terms of actions and decisions in our lives. There's also another quote or famous thought that says that it's better to go up one step at a time if you want to climb a ladder than not climbing at all, because if you go one step at a time, one day you're gonna get there. So anyways, I'm trying to apply that to my life lately, especially with my new YouTube journey. I really want to make it work, YouTube, for me. I love to create content like this, and I just want to improve, and I'm trying to follow those rules. I feel like, instead stay stuck creating like internal frustrations and regrets. I'd rather do it, try for 1 or 2 years. It doesn't matter the consequences of it, but at least I'm moving. At least I'm trying to move. I'm trying to go with the flow of life, and I think that's important. I really think that that's changing my perspective in life. And I barely start my YouTube channel, right, a couple weeks and maybe ago, and I already feel that I'm learning so much, about myself, about my art, about YouTube in general, about the whole business side of it. So I'm really glad that I got out of my comfort zone and I'm doing something like this. I actually have another quote from William Blake. Who doesn't know, William Blake was a great poet from the past, and I think his quote is actually more related to what I'm trying to express here, because he says that he who desires but acts not breeds pestilence. So he's a little more poetic in his expression, but it pretty much means the same thing. If you have a desire and it's too strong, but you don't act, you're stagnated, you're like stopped water, you're just gonna cause pestilence, which in my interpretation of pestilence, it's like regret, it's like accumulated energy, it's frustrations. Eventually you're gonna put that energy somewhere, and might not be positive like if you were striving for your desires. So that's my interpretation of it. But anyways, you can see this principle pretty much in anything in life. If you ever study occultism, there is the Hermetic law that is called the law of rhythm, which pretty much sums the same, that everything in existence has a rhythm, like your heart beating, the day and the night, the death and the borning, right, and the rebirth, the sunshine, the sunrise, the winds, the movement of the winds, the movement of the ocean. So everything, the clocks, everything have a rhythm, and this rhythm is a reflection of the cycle of life that non-stop. It's a movement, it's a flow, and you have to keep adapting to that flow, and you have to keep in synchrony with that flow in order to succeed and be harmonic with life. But anyways, that's just my interpretation. I actually love to read quotes instead of reading entire books or texts, because it's almost feel that quotes, they're a synthesis, like a essence of what that author or what that person wanted to express. And then once you read that, the magic of it is that you have your own interpretation of that thinking, because maybe the person that was writing that didn't have the same idea, but when you are reading that, you are creating your own interpretation, and maybe that's giving you a completely different insight that you need in your life. So I love quotes, and if you are someone that likes sometimes like philosophy or deep thinking about life, but you don't like or don't have enough time to read too many books or long texts, just start by googling interesting quotes, especially the quotes from the past, from philosophers from the past. I love to reflect on those. They always give me great insights in life. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, just trying to explain a little bit of my process and bringing some reflections for you guys here. But if you have any suggestions on topics and what kind of videos you like more, what do you think you don't like, I'm totally open for your honest opinions on my videos. If you tell me no, your videos are just boring, or I'd rather if you just give me like tutorials, or I'd rather if you just express more of your thoughts. Just be honest, straight honest with me. I'm here to learn, to have fun, to share value, but also to learn with you guys. So thanks again, and have a good day.